Good Tuesday to you, everybody in COM 731. Welcome to week boom 7. How you doing? Everybody hanging in there? We're not quite at the halfway point and that much longed for modular week. It's coming up. It's not here yet. It's coming up. But we're approaching that point. Let's get a little calming peppermint tea because I've been up most of the morning working and I am, believe me, sufficiently caffeinated. Okay. So this is the video in which we talk about what we're going to be doing this week. And then in the other video, we'll talk about what we did last week. Okay. So for this week, we are going to finish up macroeconomics. Okay. And you'll see in the module posted for week 7 that what I'm asking you to do is to read chapters 16 through 19. That is, you'll wrap it up. And additionally, make sure that you're focused on and you're getting a start on your technology tool. Now, everybody, I believe, unless I missed one or two, should have gotten a graded part 1 for your paper, right? I think those are all finished. Well, we're gonna talk about we'll talk about that in the other video. All right, so let's focus on what we're going to be doing this week. Looking at the module as we wrap up the macroeconomics by Tapscott and Williams. I have another TED Talk, another video for you to like, slipped out. For you to watch, not necessarily if you like it or not. I appreciate the depth and breadth of what these two guys were up to, but I'm not wholly convinced in the efficacy of what it is that they promote. I mean, the potentiality, the what ifs, fantastic. All right. That's why in this week, they sort of get around to it in the very last chapter, the dark side of macroeconomics. That is this new business environment, communicative environment that we find ourselves in, and what are the not so good things. Now, not that you're, drawn to the negative, but if you're interested in some of the, I'm trying to grab another book here. If you're interested in some of the cautionary issues that we ought to be aware of, there are a couple of books I want to recommend to you. Okay. The first one is this one by Kerry James called Disconnected, Youth, New Media, and the Ethics Gap. And then the other one is, and this is sort of quickly becoming a foundational work in communication studies that are, media studies or new media studies or whatever. I mean, how long is something around till it's not new anymore? Right? Digital media studies or internet-based media studies or interactive media studies, whatever words you like. Okay. Anyway, it's by Sherry Turkle called Alone Together. Why we expect more from technology and less from each other. Because a world in which mediation, the experience of mediation, is substituted for the experience of interaction, has some significant problems that goes with it. We're not designed for mediation. Now, it's true that interaction brings challenges, and you only have to look at the tree, or so maybe the outer branches of the tree of communication theory, to look at some of the explanations as to why people behave the way they do in face-to-face interactions or avoid face-to-face interactions in the way they do. The underlying cause for that is that they can be difficult. They can be uncomfortable, difficult that can be fraught with misunderstanding and conflict, difficult. And it would seem that the solution for those difficulties and the potential risks is just to take the face-to-face interaction out. Well, that's not in itself problem-free. And it begs the question as to whether by our design, we were made for mediated communication as the main form of communication. I'm not, there's no Luddites here. And if you're not familiar with that term, look that up. Technology is, there's nothing good or bad about a thing. It's how you use it. So one of my favorite coffee mugs from my home state of Utah. Okay. If I use it to hold a tasty, soothing cup of tea, that's good. If I take it, and it's going to sound like a weird analogy, but if I take it and bash it into the side of somebody's head, not so good. Okay. So it's the usage of the thing. It's not the thing itself. There's nothing inherently ordered or disordered about this cup, or we might say good or bad. It's what you do with it. Same goes for technology. So this week, I want you to pay particular attention to some of these shortcomings that may that are involved with this. And yes, and if you picked up on this, that there's a certain amount of cheerleading that's going on by the authors throughout this work. Okay, so for instance, when you get to chapter 16, you're going to read about something called Kiva. And it's going to sound like, approach to save the world. And it's not new, and it's been around for a while. And I want you to ask the question, well, if this is the solution to solve the problem, and I said, I'm not going to tell you what the solution is or the problem, because then I would be giving it away. And what would be the fun of reading that chapter? So if this is the solution, the proposed solution for the problem that's identified, fair question to ask, how are we doing in addressing that problem in 2023? And if the answer is just about as good as we always have, then it doesn't mean throw out processes like Kiva, but it might mean that just because it's new and it involves technology doesn't mean it's going to fix the problem. That's how I want you to approach these chapters. And you sort of get to back up from the work now that you're almost finished with it, the book in its entirety. Okay. All right. Also, for this week, make sure that you are looking at and you read through the next major upcoming assignment, and that is the technology tool, organizational communication technology tool. And I think I posted it last week, week 6, but I posted it again, week 7. It's due October 29th. And I'm not going to go into the sheet because I did that last week, but just make sure that's your deep think for the week, that you're doing that and you're getting started, because the end of the month will be here before you know it. Okay. So for this week, finish up macro economics, answer the 4 questions per usual, and start thinking about your organizational communication technology tool. What would you like to do? All right. Okay, everybody, have a wonderful, blessed week. I will see you in the other video in which we talk about the questions and your responses there too, and part 1 of your paper from last week. And I'll see you on Canvas. God bless, and bye-bye.